Joan Osborne. That's not Ashley Osborne. It's not your guidance counselor. It's Joan Osborne. The name of the song is One of Us. What if God were one of us? We're on topic today. The monotheistic religions. Listen to a little bit of the song. There's 3 monotheistic religions, 3 of them. God had a name, the song starts. Well, guess what? In the monotheistic religions, God does have a name. Because in a monotheistic religion, mono, meaning one, is that Latin or Greek? Oh boy. One theory, right? Monotheistic, one God. And the monotheistic religions believe that there is only one true God. And God actually has a name. That one true God has a very interesting name. And that one true God's name is YAHWEH. That's such a cool name, YAHWEH. Okay? That's YAHWEH, YAHWEH. And the monotheistic religions all believe that there is one true God, this God YAHWEH. And the 3 monotheistic religions, which you're probably familiar with, I mean, this is kind of the weird thing, because sometimes in life we start to realize, like, well, geez, those 2 religions don't really like jive. They don't really get along. They got different like cultures and different practices and different beliefs. But with these 3 religions, they really have the same one most important belief, and that is that there is only one true God, this God YAHWEH. Okay? And the 3 monotheistic religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, in order. That's the order that they appear in. Okay, and we're going to learn a little bit about the culture of each of these monotheistic religions. I would like us to have a sort of a greater appreciation that these religions kind of go in an order. I'm going to teach it like the 3 little bears, right? The 3 little bears. You know the story of the 3 little bears. Who is it? The girl shows up. They go in. There's the 3 bowls of porridge and the 3 beds, right? And the first one is like too hot. And the second one's too cold. And the third one's just right. You know the story. Who was that? I don't know. Robin Hood? You know the story. Right? And so these religions kind of work the same way. The first religion's going to have some flaws, right? The first monotheistic religion's going to have some little flaws, maybe a little too hot. And then another religion's kind of build off that. It's the same God, YAHWEH, right? But the second monotheistic religion's kind of like build off those little like errors or flaws maybe in the first one. And then the second religion's going to come along, but that one's going to be a little bit too cold. And then eventually you're going to get to like this third monotheistic religion that we're going to teach is like maybe just right, not meaning that it's a better religion, but just meaning like as the religions sort of flowed through time, new monotheistic religions popped up that addressed some of the concerns that people had about the previous one. So this is what's really strange, right? In our modern time period, we might go, wow, well, the Jewish people and the Christians, they don't really get along. The Christians and the Muslims, which are people that are of Islamic faith, right? So if you follow the religion of Islam, you are a follower or a believer. That makes you Muslim. And we go, okay, well, the Islamic believers, the Muslims, they don't really drive maybe with the Jews traditionally or the Christians. They have different belief systems. But really, it's the same God, right? Now, what they do differ on is these sort of tiny beliefs within this monotheistic religions, right? They differ on these little tiny cultural beliefs, and each monotheistic religion tried to maybe address some of people's concerns with the previous one. And so in that way, they are different and they have different little sub-belief systems and maybe a different culture, right? And different thoughts about how a monotheistic religion could work or should work, but it's all the same God, okay? It's all Yahweh. Now, for today's class, we just kind of want to look at monotheistic religions, and we're going to skip ahead. Normally, we get into the history and the geography of each one. I kind of want to look at, like, sociologically. Let's think like a sociologist. Let's think like a sociologist just for a second here, right? A sociologist is going to examine the social impact of a monotheistic religion. There are advantages to having only one God, but there are also disadvantages to only celebrating one God. So let's take a look at, like, we'll make a little T-bar chart, advantages and disadvantages to monotheism, right? Specifically, not specifically each religion, but just monotheism in general. What are the advantages and disadvantages of just having one God? And along with just having one God, you got a little something else going on too. Those polytheistic religions that we just learned about, many of them allowed for an afterlife where you get to do life over again. Either your spirit becomes an animal spirit in a next life, or your spirit, through a process of reincarnation, dies, but then is born again, and you get to live life over again and again and again until you achieve some success, right? Like in Hinduism, you can level up or level down. In Buddhism, there's this whole idea of reincarnation until you finally figure out to follow the Eightfold Path and become one with the universe and achieve a state of nirvana. In these monotheistic religions, not only is there just one God, but you only get one life. You only get one shot at it. Now let's think about that. We've talked about, like, how video games are kind of inspired by religious thought, some of our modern video games. Think about a video game where you only got one shot at it. You know, so many video games, you get multiple lives. You can earn more lives. You get multiple attempts to try and succeed at finishing a level. Imagine a video game where you got this really, really hard level. You got one shot, right? One shot to get it right. That's a tough game. And so as a sociologist, we got to appreciate that a little bit, right? There's advantages and disadvantages of that. For one, okay? On the one hand, one advantage of having a monotheistic religion is that everybody in the religion's playing by the same set of rules. There's only one God, there's only one sort of religion that everybody in that religion follows, and they're all celebrating the one set of rules that the one true God has laid out. So one advantage, at least from a social standpoint, everybody's on the same page, right? Everyone conforms to the same set of rules. And that allows for some unity. So everyone that's Jewish conforms to the same set of Jewish rules laid out by their one true God. Everyone that's Christian conforms to that same set of Christian rules that's laid out by their one true God. So everyone conforms to the same set of rules in that way. And this allows for some unity among the people. Now you're going to have different sects of the religion, but as far as, like, the overarching idea, the holy book of scripture, if you will, there's only one true set of rules. Okay, so the word homogeneous, right? People become more homogeneous in that way. You also get a lot less fighting, right? Because people all believe in the same God, at least in theory, there should be less fighting. Now, that's almost hard to imagine because, well, gee, sometimes these people don't get along. But imagine a scenario, maybe like 2,000 years ago, where, like, everybody had different belief systems. There was actually even more conflict than we have now between these monotheistic groups. And so there's actually less fighting and conflict because of that unity. Okay? That's kind of what we want to focus in on there. You know, basically everyone's on the same page. Just put that in quote, right? Everybody's on the same page. There's There's some uniform thinking and a lot of unity and a lot less fighting and conflict. On the disadvantage side, there is not a lot of room for individualism. Right? If you've got a very specific sort of situation in your life that's very unique to your set of circumstances, when you just have one set of rules and one true God and one real set of holy scripture, you might have some sort of weird, unique situation that doesn't seem to fit that scenario that's laid out in the scripture. And there's really no room for your individual needs in that way. Right? So there's no real room for individualism. I think maybe and I'm just kind of thinking off the cuff here, like a topic like abortion, right? I mean, abortion, Christians, and probably the other groups too, the Muslims and the Jews also, right? Like people have very, very strong religious beliefs about something like abortion, but an individual might have some weird set of circumstances that has occurred, or maybe there's like a medical issue, and that complicates the sort of uniform conformity where a Christian, the true Christian scripture might be interpreted like abortion, not a good idea. But then someone goes, well, I got this individual case, right? And I got this medical issue, and if I have the baby, it could cost me my own life. And now what do? Like these holy texts and just having one set of rules, it doesn't really make room for that type of individualism. And so that's a disadvantage of the monotheistic religions. Also, anytime that there's conformity and no room for individualism, that opens the door to some authoritarianism, meaning one person or one small group of people will have the authority to tell everybody else how to act. And so there goes your individualism, and here comes authoritarianism, where you've got one person or one group of people that lay down the basic, the holy law for everybody else, and you've got to get on board, or that's it. You could interpret that as a disadvantage, right? On the one hand, that does lead to some unity and less fighting. On the other hand, it leads to some authoritarianism as a disadvantage. Also, if everybody's got to be on the same page and follow the same set of rules, that's also going to lead to some intolerance of people who are different. All right, so sociologically, if you've got monotheistic people, they're not necessarily going to be tolerant of people that are polytheistic. They're going to go, no, that's polytheism. You can't be polytheistic. There's only one true God. And if you don't believe in that one true God, then you're not doing the right thing here in your life. And they can get judgy and very intolerant of people who don't see things exactly the way that their religion, their one true God and their religion sees things, or their one true God's holy scripture and testament sees things, right? That's going to create some intolerance. You've also got this overriding, like I mentioned earlier, one of the big disadvantages, this is pretty stressful. These monotheistic religions are very stressful. You got one shot at getting things right in your one life, and you got to please this one God, and there is some pressure there, right? Like if I screw up in this world, I don't get a do-over. I don't have another life to live where I try and fix things and level up, right? Like maybe in Hinduism. I don't have another life to sort of explore the root cause of my suffering like in Buddhism and try and make myself a better person. I got one go at it. And that is a little bit stressful, right? You got one shot to get it right. And of course, we can see how that might lead to some intolerance too. Like if there's someone that you view as interfering with your one shot to get it right in this world, then you're going to become even more intolerant of that person if you're viewing them as getting in the way of your one shot to get it right. Okay, you start to see this a little bit sociologically, right? From a social standpoint, the monotheistic religions have some very strong advantages, right? It really cut down probably on warfare in general between people and between tribes and the thousands of tribes that were at war with each other forever in the early stages of human history. On the other hand, there were some disadvantages that come along with it, in that, unified monotheistic religion does maybe lead to some intolerant thinking and to some authoritarian behaviors, and there's a lot of stress involved at getting it right the first time. Okay, that's my little go at sort of understanding monotheistic religions, this belief that there is only one true God named Yahweh. Thanks for joining me. We get back into it probably over the next couple days. We're going to dig into each of these monotheistic religions on their own and start to explore each monotheistic religion more deeply. Adios!